Hello there and welcome everybody. BLS018, rebuilding the Twitter UI with Tailwind. I'm going to continue with a project that I started last Saturday. Let me quickly shut this one off. Okay. I had some technical difficulties starting up. My connection is still pretty slow. I'm working on a new connection, so I really hope that improves the stream. But yeah, in any case, let's take a look at this app. And this is what I built. Hey there, Abel. Abel de la Fuente, it's good to see you. Nice to see you back here. And so yeah, this is the Twitter UI we built. You can already spot one of the issues. I started building it mobile first. So this is the mobile UI. It should scroll and show the icons down below. And this is basically where I left it. Now, off camera, I take a quick look at what this was in order not to waste any of your time online watching this. So I have a simple pull request. Let me quickly open this up here. I created a pull request for myself, but in order to explain what was going wrong, I figured I would reapply this on stream. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to fix the responsive issues and make sure that this thing works as expected. And then let me get this window back here. 1 second, please. Yep. And then once that is gone, what I actually want to do is create a few routes. So the current app is just one page here, a layout, and then I have one page, which I think is called dashboard component, that loads this. But this is obviously not the dashboard. So what I want to go ahead and do, and we can take a look at Twitter here, which is obviously the inspiration. And if we put them side by side, we can see that it's not pixel perfect, but it's close-ish. Goal is not to get it picture perfect. The goal is to get a working clone, fully working with logging in, posting stuff, and replying, and all that jizz. And yeah, I'm not going to waste too much time in getting it really, really picture perfect, because I think that's not the most interesting part. So, but when we look at the UI here, we see that we have the sidebar with the icons here, and this is actually implemented as a header. So for Twitter, and I think what might have happened, but I'm not sure, I'm just guessing here, is that this used to be the header that was on top, because I remember that Twitter before had a header that was on top, and they basically moved around they moved it to the side to get this layout, but it's still a header, and probably semantically also the best name for this thing. But anyway, it's a header on one side, and then the other part is basically this whole area. Now, what I'm currently doing in my clone is that I'm using a grid. I'm using CSS grid here, and we can have the grid printed. So this is the grid that I'm using. And as you can see, this is one big grid. And if we move this a bit bigger, then we change, depending on the viewport, we change how this is divided. So here is a smaller version. You see here the sidebar, which actually the header takes up 1 to 3, and the rest takes up 3 to 12. But then if we extend the screen, then we see that we only take 1 column here for the header, and then 8 for this one, and then 5 for the rest of them. Not 5, 3, 4, I don't know. It doesn't really matter, but we divide it in this way. Now, what I'm actually going to do, and if we can take a look at Twitter UI, I want to implement also the messages interface. Now, what you can already see, this doesn't have the same type of interface. We have a sidebar here and a main panel here. And if we go to settings, we see that it's yet different. So what I thought about doing is making the sidebar part of the layout, and the rest is going to be routed. So we're going to have the pages here, settings, going to have routed settings, and the home. And in order to make that a bit, so we can see the difference and apply different grids, basically, depending on the layout, I'm going to add the timeline, which is the basic thing. I'm going to add a simple messages interface and this settings. So with that out of the way, let's go. And let's reapply the fixes here. So I'm going to use my reference here on the other screen. And one of the main things that we're going to look at here, let's get rid of this grid helper. super cool, but that's not what we want to do. The scrolling here, it doesn't really scroll. The background goes with the scrolling. And I need to make sure that I'm the right one, but I think it's this one that yep, this is the one that we're looking at. Now, the way to do this is to set overflow auto here. And if I set overflow auto here, we at least get a scrolling middle bar. Now, this is also another thing. If you look at the Twitter UI, you see that the scrolling bar is on the side. So it scrolls the whole middle the whole right section, if you will, everything besides the menu. And if we look here, I didn't really implement this well. This is still coming from the mobile layout, so this is also something I need to address. But at least we don't see the white background anymore. So that's the first fix. And I got another one here. Let's just apply it right away, actually. So I'm going to go to the code, and as far as I know, this all lives in layout components, if I recall correct. Yeah, there you go. So here's the whole layout, everything and all. And what I did is edit. Close this down. I added some comments where you can see, okay, this sidebar, this is the main area. Then we have the top bar here. And then this is our tweets, actually, our messages. Or is it? This is actually my text area. Yep, this is something where I forgot my, where I forgot to add my comments. So this is the main area, and then we have the top bar, and then here we have the, let's call it compose tweet. This as a comment right here. So this is the compose tweet section, which is in the middle, right here, this compose tweet section. And then we route to. So the idea is that we are gonna show the sidebar, which in Twitter terms is the header, but for the layout purposes, we see it as a sidebar, and then make this main area, this whole thing, probably this whole thing, or from here, make that one big grid row, column, sorry. So let's get to do that, and gonna apply these fixes here first. So I'm gonna say overflow auto, and looking at this screen, we now should have the scrolling behavior, so that's all good. And I also added height full to the row on the sidebar, and that is to bring this icon down. So if we look at Twitter, we see that our icon is all the way down there, and here it's not, and that's because we're missing a full height on this column here. So if we say h-full, we should see that it doesn't bring the column down. It's right here, it does bring the column down, it's just not looking at it well. And then we also want to change a little bit of the padding. So the padding right now is only on the top, and if we make it PY, we see that the icon jumps up a little bit. So that's the second thing we're going to update here. Give this a PY and an H full. And as you can see, I got some auto completion. It's not perfect yet, but at least it's there, and I'm super happy with it. So cool, that pulls down the icon back. Now inside the main area, I changed a few things, and I'm gonna just check if I can explain what it did. Yeah, I think I know what it is. So what we actually want to have happen is that this latest tweets on top here stays on top. So you can see in Twitter, this stays on top. So the way to do this is create another flag box, which is often the answer in Tailwind. If you want to do something, probably going to add another flex box and redefine it. So we can close the sidebar here because we're done with that. And then the main area here, this is the one, the main area is going to be a flex box, and flex is normally horizontally. So we're going to make it a flex call vertically. So it's a flex box, but it behaves as if it was a normal div. And if we go back, then we can also already see we have the what's happening here, and the bar is scrolling. So that's looking good. That's already more in place than we had. We can get rid of the bottom icon bar on any viewport that's not small. So the bottom icon here, the bottom bar, basically what we want to do, it's displaying by default, and then I think medium and up We want to mark it as hidden. So this should just get rid of the bar. There we are. So that gets rid of that one. And then lastly here, we see that this what's happening is there where we can post our tweet, but that also scrolls along. So this what's happening section, the compose tweet, actually needs to live inside this div here so that it scrolls along with the content. So let's just do that. Get rid of the bottom bar. And here's the compose tweet. So this compose tweet can actually live inside where we're routing to, and this will all change shortly. But for now, though, this should pop the scroll bar here to the top, and then this is all scrolling content. Now this is starting to look more like what we had in mind. I'm going to quickly peek in here if there's anything I missed, but it looks like that's all I got with this change. So also let's move back to the mobile view and let's refresh here to see that the mobile view is still working, and it looks like it is still working. Yes. Okay, nice. Very cool. So let's now, one other thing I like to check before moving on is pop this DevTools to the side and then see how this is working. Now, what we actually want to happen in this viewport is that we extend this menu, just like Twitter would do. I think it's a pretty cool pattern that they only show the icons and after that they show the full thing. I definitely want to get it in there, but I'm going to first focus on the routes and make sure that we make the split differently so that if we have one grid cell on the side and a large on the side, basically divide the screen in two, as I explained earlier on. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do a quick commit here, and I'm going to say remove this file quickly. We have modified one file here. So I'm going to say git commit. And I'm going to call it responsive layout fixes. Great. So now we can think about this routing stuff. And I've been doing this in an NX workspace. And for now, and to keep things simple and to focus not too much on the whole orchestration of these libraries and pulling them all out, because I think that makes for another interesting video by itself, I thought about just adding a few pages here in the dashboard, just hack them in here because yeah, we don't really care about how we structure this yet. We really care about the layout. So, and then the main one can be posts. And we're going to have messages and settings. So that will be our three routes. And I initially want to route to posts always. I'm going to do a path match here and redirect to posts. And this shouldn't be very much surprise to you Angular developers out there. And we can see it redirects to posts. And I can redirect to settings, etc., etc. Cool. So what we can do with that is actually this. It does route. Of course it does. So what I want to do is here create a few icons and click on these so that we can navigate between the three. So that's one thing I want to do, and I'm going to divide these ones up. So let's first create some navigation. And that is in our web layout component, actually right about here in the sidebar. I'm going to just link these up a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is take the first tree, inside it here, create an A, and create a router link, actually, router link to /home. And I need to address that. So this would be messages, messages, messages. And this will be settings, and here settings. And what I'm actually thinking about it from looking at this, because if I print this right now, it will probably not look very good. Yeah, there you go. This doesn't look really good. It does also not route because we have dashboard /settings and we don't have /settings without the dashboard. So let's get rid of the dashboard for now. I'm going to go into my shell. And here in my web feature shell module, I'm going to get rid of this dashboard here. pop it in as the first route, and then everything will be routed to dashboard. So that should fix our links. So get rid of the not found route. And that should give us any second now the ability to navigate between the tree. Okay, very good. Nothing's missing here. Let me quickly find out what. So this is /settings/messages/home. And inside our feature module, we have posts. And this is called home. So yeah, okay. I'm going to go to the layout here. Going to change this to posts. Now, actually, I want to show links at some point, but you know what? And not at this moment. So I'm going to quickly hide these ones on small, hidden. Hide them always. I'm going to copy over the router link and add the router link to the div. Then I'm going to say router link active. And on the active route, we're going to say background blue 600. Background blue 600. And then after that, I can get rid of this background blue here because they're all the same, background white. And this should hide the labels and should make the first tree clickable, and we can see which one is selected. Let's add a cursor pointer to it as well. Cursor pointer, so we get an indication that it is a link here. There we go. Okay, cool. Now, next thing is implementing different routes. And I'm going to quickly do this, and not particularly the most the way I would really do it in a production app, but this is not a production app yet. So I'm going to go ahead and create 3 folders here: post, settings, and messages. And I'm going to do some copy paste driven development here. Post this over here, this over there, and this over here. Just we have something to work with inside of these things. And this is going to be web settings feature. Web settings feature. So bear with me while I quickly rename these ones here. Posts here. And messages here. And I could have probably also used some generators to do this, but hey, I'm already now on this route, so I'm going to stick with that. Move this one back and messages, and there we go. And now I can make sure they're all unique. So this posts is going to be pretty similar. This settings is just going to say settings at some point, and messages is going to have messages at some point. And get rid of all the stuff that's inside here, because we don't really need it. Same goes for the settings. We don't need the content of this component. And then here in the module, and this is what I normally would not do. I would not register multiple modules, multiple components in a module. I generally have a module, single component, Angular module, scam, web, settings, feature component, web post feature component, and web message feature component. And this is just for the design, for the layout, and we're not interested in lazy loading just yet. Web messages and settings. And that makes this dashboard feature unnecessary. That means we can get rid of these two here. This should leave us with a rendering Angular app. And here we have settings down below, and we have messages here, and we have the posts here. And I think this already displays the issue that I'm trying to tackle here. These ones, messages and settings, should not have this whole stuff around it that says latest tweets and the sidebar. So this should be just a unique piece. So where we do want to have it is inside this one. So in order to get there, and this is going to be a lot of code inside the same file, it's kind of inevitable for the way I'm working. The templates are huge. I would normally have way smaller templates than, well, this is not that bad, but the layout one is pretty bad, or pretty large, if you will. Let's open it, and we're going to say layout component. We're going to actually address that it's so large. So we have sidebar here, and we have the main area here, and then the sidebar right. And actually we'll want to have the sidebar right and the main area to be contained inside the route that we're seeing right here. So what I think I'm going to do right here is copy over this main area, open our posts component template, and basically drop this in here. And this is I think I'm going to call this post list. And I'm going to encapsulate it with a whole div, because I think that's what we want in any case. So we have one div, and this has a flex container. This is the post list. It means we can get rid of the main area here. Let's also save the comment. So inside the post list, we have the main area. Now here we want to copy over the sidebar. So I'm going to pick up this whole piece, sidebar with the comment, and paste that in here. So that's here. Now what we previously had was a router outlet right here. So this router outlet, I'm going to take it out, move it back in here. Drag this in a div because we're at some point going to style it. It's pretty inevitable. And then lastly, instead of where we had the router outlet, I'm now just going to render whatever we had in this component, which is the whole ng container here. So pick this one up. Need to do this right. Pick this one up. Control G. That's not what I want. Control X. Like pick it up. Go back to the items here and paste it in. So instead of the router outlet, we now show all of our posts. And in a real life app, you would extract this out and have some rendering components and some other components, more intelligent components. Now inside the sidebar, we have the right sidebar. We have two items: who to follow and what's happening. And they lived here on the web component, web layout component class, web layout component class. I'm going to pick this one up and actually same one too. So that means web layout component has no longer any content, which is nice. And then in the web posts feature component inside here, I'm going to also paste in who to follow and what's happening. And if we hit save, we should render out. So let me quickly open the terminal here, see if we have any errors. We don't. Okay, cool. So some things happened, and it all put it down on one line. And we see here messages and settings. So let's see if we can restore back our previous UI and how that would look. So one of the things I already have in mind is that we need to fix the grid, because this grid is still here applied, but it looks like the whole center column is now inside one grid column, which is not what we want, because we want this thing to extend the whole grid. So what I can see here is that on small devices, we have a call span of 2. It's normally hidden. Let's move this to the front. It's normally hidden. Small size, it will block, so it will display. It will span 2, and then on large size, it will span 1. This is useful to know because we can basically do the rest, complete the rest of the 12 cells. I'm using a 12-column grid here, and say on small screens, by default, I want you to span 12 columns because we don't have the sidebar. Remember, this is hidden on normal device. Then on small screens, I want you to call span, and we say 10, which is 12 minus this 2. And large devices, we want to call span 11, which is 12 minus this 1 here. And now when we go back to the site, it refreshes, we see that we indeed load everything. Now onto the second problem, we see that this now takes up the whole width, and this is no longer on the site. So let's go back to our posts component, and see what we have here. We want to be in the template actually. Now, In this main area, we actually have the rest, like basically what we just replaced, the column span is what we can get rid of here, because we are not interested in doing it right here. And I actually think we can make this a grid. And this by itself will get 12 columns. So just like here, but we're going to subdivide this thing into 12 columns. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to leave this in here. Class, grid, and grid columns 12. I'm sorry, friends. So I'm going to save this one up, go back to the app, and then we should see that these both live side by side again. There we go, but we're missing one cell because we basically instructed, we added a new inner grid. The outer grid had 12 and we used only 11 in this side, but now we need to address for that. So let's see what this looks like. Yeah, I think what we can do here is this one a bit smaller and this one smaller, and the bottom bar as well. And then here on the side, okay, so we have a call span of 4 on large. And here we have a medium call span of 8. Small, we don't want to do anything. And on large, we also, I think we should call span 12 by default. And call span 8 on large to address for the 4 here. And there is David Pitch. Hey there, David. Good to see you, man. Cheers. Nice to see your support on the stream. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so when we hit save here, this should address for the width, and there we go. And this all looks pretty much how we want it. There's one thing I don't like about the current setup, and that we scroll and we get away from the sidebar. The sidebar doesn't stick. So what we want to have is only this inner part to scroll. So let's see if we can address that. And I think that's a matter of giving a height to this grid here, height full, and setting overflow to auto. And I might add too much overflows in total. But this is not the case. I probably add too much overflows in general. But yeah, this is not meant to be perfect. This is I literally 1 month ago started using Tailwind myself, so it's all pretty new. Let's see if H full here helps, but it doesn't seem to help. And I'm not even sure where this is the outer grid. Okay, I think this might need a height full. Any of those that needs height full, or maybe both. Maybe both need them. Height full and overflow auto. Nope, it doesn't really give it to me right now. And then here inside the router outlet, we have another component. So let's check ng component. And I realize you all can't really see this. So, okay, it does seem to work here. So I'm going to add this one where I said small grid columns. So that is inside my web layout. Small grid columns. This is going to get an H full. H full. And I think this here as well. And maybe going to go back here. And this seems to work as it was before. Awesome. And now we have the messages and the settings. So I think it might be nice to start adding the basic structure for the settings here. So settings and privacy. So this is another way. Or actually, maybe I should spend some time and get the sidebar correct. Let's do that first. Sidebar, I'm going to look at it from the home view. It doesn't expand on this viewport. So this is something we want to address. And that basically means getting the outer grid, making this one wider. So probably 3 or 4 columns wide, and then making this one smaller. So we can go ahead and do just that by taking the sidebar here and say on large devices, you don't call span 1. Maybe it's extra large. Let's see, extra large, you call span 3. And then this one, extra large, you call span 9, which is 12 minus 3, and this prettiers my file. Okay, this already looks better. So this doesn't look bad at all. What I do think is not how it's meant to be. Yeah, this is centered. So if we quickly add a line around a border around my sidebar here, just the sidebar, this is the whole one. We can actually already see it. This takes way too much space. So actually this container here, I think I want to do something like max width, but I haven't really figured out the syntax of this max classes, max width MB. I think it's something like this, where we can say, let's bump this up so you all can see, read along with it. Here we say max width MD. That's why that is large screens. Okay, it does change something. It's just slowly changing it. Might be because I'm doing a stream right now. Okay, I'm basically going to ignore the fact that it's wider. What I do want to happen is that this sticks to the side and that it's not too wide, and we can add some labels here, so that's cool. Let's add labels first. Here, so we do hidden by default, and then on large devices, we want to inline block these ones. Also, currently, this class is actually cursor. So what I'm going to do here is get rid of this, basically copy over the class, add a new div here, append that class, get rid of the cursor pointer. So this is our icon. We can get rid of these ones. And this should give us an icon. And now instead of cursor pointer, we should say displays flex and space x2 maybe. And also here we say text is going to be large and font is going to be, let's start with semi-bold and see how that looks. Okay, we have something here. It doesn't look pretty at all, but that's what we have Tailwind for. Now, one of the things here is that we can say item center, and this is most likely why the items are centered inside the column. I think we want to item center by default, and then on large, we want to say item start, which I think is the Flexbox way of doing this. Yes, this gets the items to the start. Now we can already see is the background link, router link active is not longer something we want to pop on the div, but merely on the icon. So let's put that one here, router link active. This should get the icons like this. Okay, cool. This is starting to look somewhat like the ones on Twitter. And what we see is that we also have the text being changed. So let's also add that one. So on the router link active, what we actually also want to do is say text blue 600. And again, in a real life app, you probably have an array of links that you want to navigate to and show their icon. But for now, we're just going to do it this way. So cool. This is already getting a bit more like it. And we can also say that this button now changed into tweet. So let's look up where the button is. And this one. Let's see what we're going to do right here is going to add a span inside here that says tweet and say you're hidden by default. But on large displays, you block, and it should block all the way. And I think that should be enough for now. Tweet, it's not enough for now. It has height and width set to a fixed value. Okay, actually, this is something I didn't really consider. What I might be able to do is say with large device with auto. or width full. Doesn't work. Okay, let me see. All right, I'm going to do it slightly different. And this is something I picked up from watching Adam, from the creator of Tailwind, working with it. I'm going to copy over this one and undo the changes I made. So I'm happy with the button as is. And what I'm just going to do here is say it will display by default on a large device hidden, and the other one, make this one hidden, the whole button hidden, make it block on large and get rid of the width here, any of those, and see if this gives us the desired output. Still doesn't give us the desired output. Let's see why that is. It's not large. Okay, we're in viewport medium then. No, we should be in large because we see this one. Interesting. Interesting that it doesn't show in the full width when I give it a block. I totally thought that would help. And we probably should check the parent. Okay, the parent div is most likely in play here as well. Let's give this a border. Quick. And this should show us. This should show us a little border here. Okay, yep, and it looks like this is related, where it doesn't take up the whole width here. So let's make this one width full. See if that helps something. Yeah, this helps something, but this is not what I'm after. And this is probably fixable by adding some padding, but it will look weird because our sidebar is way larger than the one on Twitter. And to address for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add here the classes that help me get here. So this is going to be flags and going to be width full here. And then with that out of the way, should render out the full width button. If this one also full width, and then a margin on the right of, I'm going to start with 6 here. And okay, this gives us some margin. And I'm now just going to make the whole bar smaller. So we stick it to the other side. So I'm going to make the whole bar smaller by looking at the sidebar. And I used to have Excel column 3. I'm going to make this to 2. And I'm going to go all the way down here and going to set this to 10. At least gives us some decent sidebar. Yep. Okay. Now, a little icon here on the bottom also needs to be centered to the start of the div. Keep moving to the wrong window all the time. And on the layout here on the bottom where the little avatar is, I'm going to say item center, and on large devices, item start. And this should pull it to the site as well. Gives us some nice info for username later on. Username and maybe a little menu here. So all cool, all cool. So this is the sidebar out of the way, and we can navigate to messages and home. Now let's quickly set up home, set up settings and the messages, basically the initial UI. Let's get that ones going, those ones going, and then see what we get from there. So this is going to be the messages component, messages, feature component. And I think I can already decide here that I want to start with a grid 12. So that's grid calls 12. And we're going to have a sidebar here, which takes like it takes full span of 3 maybe and 9. So this is messages. The list would be here. contact list would be here. It's not really a contact list, but we all know what we mean with this. So, okay, this all looks good already. I'm going to move this over to the sidebar. And I'm going to do the same with Twitter. So close it and open it again. So it will reopen at exactly the same size. And this gives us some nice comparison. I'm going to go to the messages view here, and I'm going to be seeing, okay, so what we can see here is that the sidebar is a bit on the small side. So I'm going to bring this back where I just had it, web layout. And I probably need to address it and make the use of the extra large viewport. But I'm going to move this back to 3. I'm going to move this the one moving back to 3, and then the one all the way down the side here, move this back to 9. So we have the other division like the one we're after. So as with the post list, what I'm going to do is add some borders here and there. So border right, and this border color, and this also have an overflow. So let's take that the whole thing here, and what we can do to mark these areas to make sure that we're doing the right thing, we're just going to give them a background of, let's say, green and very dark. Not sure how this is going to look, might be dog ugly, but green, and the other one a very dark red, 900. So we can see the two panels. There you go. Okay, this is not too ugly. Now I'm going to add the border here to this one. I'm going to add the H-full and overflow auto to this one. This should bring them all up top to bottom, which it does not. This is because border height only works relative to the parent. So our parent also needs to be height full here. And this should give us 2 big squares. Okay, cool. Awesome, awesome. So contact list can be bigger, and the message list can be a bit smaller. So let's move this back to 4 and 8 and go here, 4 and 8. And this should divide it into 2 separate lists. Now both of these have a header inside and a scrolling area. And this one has a message box down here, and this one has a search box up here. So what I like to do in this case, we have like, okay, a top bar with a title and an icon. Same here, top bar, avatar, user info, and an icon. Here we have one input and then a whole scrolling list. So let's make the structure first and model it afterwards. So let's go. And this is basically the message grid. And this is the contact list, or chat list, if you will. It's probably a better name. And this is the message list, message panel. That way in the chat panel. Now we have a top bar here, and then we have a div with a search bar and a list of message items. And on the side, we have a top bar. We have a div, and then we have a list of messages. And an input. Now, I'm going to go offline for 1 second, and I'll be right back with you. 1 second, please. 1 minute. Thank you everybody for waiting a second. I'm right back. I'm back right now, and we can continue with building out this structure here. So let's see, we have the 3 panels. So let's add some text inside here. Gonna give this both top bars div and say top bar. And the top bar is gonna have text on the side. So that's gonna be another div. Top bar here, and then there's an icon here, which also gonna be building with the div and saying, well, actually, go to my post feature and say whatever I have with latest tweets. There you go. This is our icon station. And actually, I'm just going to copy over the top bar here, because why build the same thing over again? This will be a component anyway at some point. We have messages and the name of the person sending the messages. So messages on one side, messages. And on the other side, we have username. This is what will feature an icon. So we have a user avatar. Let's make this BEEMAN. And a little icon on the side there as well. And here messages, and we don't have the avatar on the side, so we don't really bother by it. Then inside here, do the search bar, and inside here, message or chat items. And down here, we say, okay, list of messages inside a div. And div that says compose message. Add these ones back here and these one back here, and this will all work pretty much as a normal div, because that's what it is. We don't add any special things to them. I think we can actually get rid of the background. It's pretty clear as is. Right? So green here and the background red on line 25. Getting rid of this one here. And when we go back, we should see some cute little lines already. And this starts to look pretty much like what we have on Twitter. And I'm going to keep saying it. Idea is not to get it pixel perfect, but it does work well. It seems to work easier if we can line things up. So I'm going to try if I can get something I'm going to see how similar I can get it. Close this, open this up. And then you can see, okay, this is probably best we're going to do for now. I'm going to make my search bar and chat items. Now, if we look at the chat items here, we have an avatar for each user, and then we have their name, their username, date of the last post, and the text of the last post. So we have basically a list of chats. And the chats have an author. They can also have groups of author. I don't have examples here, but we do have groups of authors. But this is going to be one of the items we're going to make, one of the sample data. So yeah, let's get this one. So it's message date, username, avatar URL, and author. And I'm going to do this in the web message feature component. So web message feature. I'm going to say chats is an array, and we're just going to quickly type it here. It's an array of text, which is string, created at, which is date. And we have an author object that has an avatar URL as a string, username as a string, and a name as a string, display name. I'm going to quickly go to post feature component, and I'm going to get this author here. This has the same shape. It's not by accident. It's super similar whole message actually. So copy over this one, add it in here, get rid of the created at. Actually, I'm going to make created at a string here, so we can have some string. And yeah, let's add something like chat. Hey there, how are you doing? And it's in a bunch of times. So that's messages. And in order to render them, we can go here and say chat items, ng container, and do a ng4 here where we say chat of chats for each item of chats, add a new div. And I think what we're going to reuse here is look at the messages, what we have here. So here we already loop over the messages in G4, check out post of posts. And this is basically one message with an avatar on the side, and then the tweet and the buttons. We don't need it all, but we can use it as a base. This div outer here and say, okay, here the item is called post. Call it chat here, and then select the post dot, all of the instances of post dot, and make it chat dot author, chat dot author username created at. The text of the chat, I know the buttons, we don't need the buttons, so we can get rid of those. I think it's organized a little bit different, but let's see how what this gets us inside this UI. This actually looks pretty close already. I like where this is going. So one thing that we can see that we can directly pick up is that there somehow is line wrapping happening here. This is something what we don't really want. And I need to look up in Tailwind how they do this line wrapping thing. They must have something to prevent line wrapping. Grab. No wrap. Flex no wrap. So this is probably what I'm after. Gonna go back here. Yep. Okay, so this is where the author name, username, and the created at go right after each other. So I'm going to add flex no wrap here and see how that behaves. Doesn't change anything. Okay, interesting. And what more do I have? White space no wrap. Okay, white space no wrap. This is probably what I'm after for the individual columns here. So let's add that to these two and see what that's going. There you go. Okay, I love this. We have a little bit of padding on the bottom and on the top of each of these items. So let's quickly add that one, which is basically going to increase the padding Y here. Going to set it to 4 and 4. And that should space them out a little bit. Yep, this already looks better. Let's quickly get search bar in there because the search bar is similar to search bar right here. So we have an input. I'm going to copy the whole div, copy the whole input, and make sure that it renders out where we say search bar. Yes, I can. And search Twitter, no, but search messages, yes. Search for people and groups. We have search for people and groups. One thing they also have is they have it a bit wider, so they have width full on the input. We should have as well. There you go. And actually they don't have a border, or they have a border that blends in with the rest. So let me see what I can do with the border here. In dark mode, we have a background gray of 300. I think I'm going to just say in dark mode, give me a border of gray 800. They should basically hide the border out of sight, blending it in with the background. That's that. One thing I note here is that there's a little less space next to the avatar. So let's add some breathing room there for the avatar. Here the avatar says margin right 3. I think the issue is actually here. We should say flex, no, space X 2 or 3, maybe even. That should push them out of each other. There you go. And now the icon is really stretched up. This is also not what I'm after. But this margin right 3. See what that's going. Like this is not what I'm looking after. And what if I go a margin right 3 on this one? See if that gives the desired behavior. No, still not. It doesn't like it. See what happens when I get rid of all of these here. Hey there, Mr. Chow. Good to see you. Thanks for the support. Thanks for dropping by, one of my residents here on the stream. This now says flex grow. I think what we can maybe do here is say margin left 3 and see where that gets us. Now it keeps pushing the thing away. I'm not totally going to give up. What I'm going to do here to make it at least visibly however we want, I think if we add a margin 3 here, which is way too deep in the tree, it's not relevant to the sidebar. Margin left actually. Okay, I don't know. I'm going to leave this as is for now. And with that, we're going to focus on the list of actual messages. So here we are, and we have this one and the list of messages. So it's the username on top and then a list of messages. And then on the bottom of that, the compose message one. So let's make sure that we get that one right. In order to get that right, we go to the sidebar here and we have the icon on top, list of messages and the message input. So I'm going to give this a border so we can easily debug it. Border blue 600. I'm going to say flex and flex column, and I'm going to say justify content, justify between this one, and then the list of messages is going to have a flex grow. It's also going to have overflow of auto and probably a height full, which means we should probably add a height full here, which means we should also, we already have the height full here. This should push all the way to the down our input, all the way down below. It should push our input. There we go. Actually, the height full pushed it all into the viewport height, which I think makes sense right here. So we're going to set it here, and let's just add it when we need it. But this is it should have the overflow auto. And here, actually, what we're going to do is list over the messages. So messages going to again have a super similar shape to the chat. So I'm going to copy over the container here, and list of messages. Going to paste this in. I'm just going to render out the same data. That's a bit boring, but there you go. Okay, at least it's long enough. Now, how we want this to behave. So what we want to behave is that this never scrolls. So we should get rid of overflow auto here, I think. And we want to have the scroll bar basically below this one and on top of the compose message one, which is not right now. And this is getting all funky. Let's see if it's better on this page here. Open the DevTools. Okay, this seems to be a glitch in the other browser. I'm going to get rid of the overflows for now and add them back as if and when I need them. Overflow auto. Chat panel, I'm fine with it actually. Overflow message panel, I'm going to get rid of this one. I'm going to get rid of the list of messages one. And then see where we're going to add them back. So this doesn't have anyone. Now, what I want to achieve is that this outer div here on call span 8, this one should have the full height, and these ones should not. This one should have the full height. Let me see. Yep, this one should have the full height, and then the inner part here should scroll. This part. Here I think we can say overflow auto. And this should at least be overflowing. Now here, I'm actually not sure what we want to do. So here height is 100. And then yeah, I think whatever we set to call span 8, full. I think in here we need to start making it a flex box and doing the same trick twice. So I'm going to say flex column. And I'm going to give it a border, and I'm going to say this is a border green of 400. And the top bar has a border, then the middle bar, we have a border blue here. And then on the compose message, let's add a border of purple. Why not? See how this behaves. Now, okay, we see those happening. And one thing I don't like happening is that the whole area scrolls. So these two panes should scroll independently, which currently they don't. And yeah, I'm definitely missing something here. So let's give it a few more minutes to see if I can fix it. If not, then that's probably going to be it for this page. So here I'm going to say overflow auto. Yeah, I'm still experimenting. As said, I haven't worked with it too long. It looks like we have back our individual bars. Okay, so that looks good. Individual scrolls here. And now to make sure that this whole div takes the full height. So let's inspect this one more time. We want to make sure that this div takes the full height, well, it's already h full. And what do we have here? So full here, overflow auto here. Okay, I'm gonna off camera, I'm gonna check out and see how this really should work, because I'm not gonna bother all you with this. Try one last thing here, flex grow. At this point I'm just guessing, and it's not something that's very interesting to watch. So I'm gonna get rid of the borders here for now. Border blue, border green. What more borders did I add that I don't want to have here? Border purple, can get rid of this one, compose tweet. And here these old borders should be there. And this is all we have. Yeah, okay, cool. So border should be gone. And this is at least the basic of the UI layout. Let's quickly add a compose message here, just so we have it. So the compose message, as we can see here, it's a bar with an input and a few buttons on the side. So we're going to use the search input here, search bar. So this one, going to use the whole same item. And inside the compose message tweet, the compose message section, let's move this one up into the comment here, compose message. We're going to have buttons. Quickly steal a button that I did here, icon. And I'm going to have two icons on the side. So this is going to be flex and space x3, two buttons here, then the input, and then one other button on the side. And this should then also be flex. And this should justify between. I find myself using this far as the most way to position content in flex. It's always between, almost always between. Class equals flex. Then write new message. And type is just a text. And this probably, if you look at it, it's probably text area, not an input, but that's a different point. Okay, write new message. This one's here. We need to align them vertically, and we need to make sure that this takes up the whole space. So say here item center, and that should give the item center. And here, I'm actually want to do width full is already set here. In here, I want to say flex grow right here, and that should give us a big box. There we go. Okay, now we can space it a little bit. So flex grow, the one where we say flex grow, let's do a padding X of 6. Some breathing room there. And there we are. That's our input. Let's quickly verify what it looks like at Twitter. It's a bit less tall. and it's a bit less, there's a bit less spacing, and it has a blue line. So, okay, let's make those tweaks. It's a bit less tall. I don't think we specified tall, so we're going to just ignore that for now. And the background, the border is going to be blue 600, so it has the same color as the buttons next to it. And then this is going to be px3, which coincides with this x3, and that should space it all out evenly. There you go. Don't you just love it? Okay, in order to get it a little bit more room, let's see what I can do here with the input, because it looks like it has certain padding to it. And this is most likely because I used the input plugin from Tailwind. Border color, opacity, border radius. And here we're into the area of the padding, and this is a padding top, a padding bottom. That, if I get rid of them, yeah, okay, it should be, it gets smaller. I wanted to say padding top. Yep, get rid of this one, and I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to add some more spacing outside. So I'm going to say the padding on the y-axis is 2. This should at least give it the impression that it's a bit more, that it has a bit more space. There we go. And then with that, I think I can set some padding on the x-axis here inside the input, and that should give it some more breathing room in the placeholder, so that the placeholder is not hugging the side there. Yeah, there you go. Okay, cool. So this is the basic setup for the message padding. I'm not totally happy with how the scrolling works, but I'm going to check that off camera and see to get that right. And I'll do that in the next stream. Let's move on to the settings here. And this will be the last part. Settings and privacy, whoever you're asking. Again, a super similar layout, 2 columns, 2 headers. Don't have to worry about any of the scrolling information right here. So this is pretty straightforward. We do have some nested routes here, so I might look at doing that, or I might not. And this is actually, so these are all external links. So this is just a single page with a few groups of links. The groups have a header and the page has a title. So this should be fairly simple to format and mimic. Then these are a bit more evolved, but they're all super similar. So it's a way of a list with sub-items, and they all have an icon, a title, and a description, and an arrow on the right-hand side. They come in groups or they come individually. Here we have some more external links. So if you squint your eyes, you can see that's already a few components that you can separate this out into. Now let's see. Okay, I'm not going to go into that at this point. Password change screen. So yeah, I'm going to just go build this sidebar your account and then do one account page. And then maybe next time we can break these up and add them in some more interesting routes. Also, if you're watching this and you want to see something special or some special feature of the Twitter UI that you like to give me a shot on, please let me know in the comments or on Twitter, and I'll happily take a look. But in the meanwhile, let's just do this, and it's the same width as the messages UI. So being good and lazy developers, I'm going to bring over the whole message UI. So I'm going to say here, web message feature component. Oh, copy this over. And I'm going to go to the settings feature component HTML. And inside here, I'm going to paste all this. Now my ng force will break. So this is the list of chat items. I don't have chats here, but I do have a sidebar. So let's just comment it out for now. So it at least renders. Same here with the actual chats. This is just a window. So we're going to have sidebar and window, but this should be a start. So settings, and let's get rid of the docs. So what we want to do here, we don't need an icon on the top bars. We just need settings in your account. So where it says settings, messages, we're going to change it to settings. I'm going to get rid of the icon here and might as well get rid of the other one as well at the same time. Settings here, we don't have a search bar above of the input, and we don't have a list of chat items, but we have a list of menu options basically. And then below that, here where it says BEEMAN, this is what's actually routed as a subroute. So we can say your account doesn't have an avatar. doesn't have an icon. And then here is where the setting details is. Oh no, account options list. We don't need a compose area either, so I'll get rid of this one right there. Let's see how this looks. So, okay, settings and your account list. Now the settings, I'm just going to quickly grab this. So your account security, security and account access, privacy and safety. Yes, Abel says the right thing here. Copy paste. First skill of any developer or Rust master. Yeah, it's totally true. Props to the person who invented the copy and paste option. Our life would be hideous without it. And even with that being said, I'm right now bringing over some text manually because I really cannot easily copy it from here. At least I don't think I can. Your account, no, I can't really copy it. So I brought something over, which is going to be living here in the settings feature component. So map settings feature. Let's close out the other ones. Settings component TS. So menu options is going to be an array of this. Account notifications. So adding these ones in here, and these are going to be labels. And the path is going to be something. Let's close this one out, and this is a menu items array. So we're going to loop over these ones. ng container, ng4, ng4, item of menu, and for now, I think just an A with a router link, and the router link goes to, let's evaluate this expression, item.path, and it has item.label. And I'm going to wrap this in a div because that's what we're going to end up doing anyway. And let's see how that looks. So per account, so we need to have some space here. We have a selected option is highlighted with the background one tint lighter. We have a border on the bottom and this little icon here, which I think we can do with HTML. So let's make sure that these things look a little bit the same. So each of these divs is going to have a padding 4 and a padding Y of 2. And it's going to have a router link active. And if we have router link active, we're going to say the background is gray. I think 800, because I think the normal background is 900, so one tint lighter. And border color, border is going to be blue 600. In order for this to happen, this thing needs to have a border. So what we're going to do is add a border by default, border, but we're only going to add it on the right side. And I think I'm going to make it 2 pixels wide. And the border normal color will be gray 900, so it will blend into the background. And does only appear if we're on the right path. And this should give them all this one. Yep, this gives them all. It does look quite similar if you ask me, so that's nice. The reason it gives them all is because we don't have any paths here in the route. So let's say your account is this one. And we add here security. Add here privacy and add here notifications. And then with that out of the way, we should have one being highlighted, which is the top one. Okay, they can use a bit more spacing. I think a tad bit more. So 3 pixels vertically, and this bottom on the border. Now to do that, actually, I see that I'm needing to add another one here, another div, basically just for the separator of the items, where I say class border bottom. And I'm going to use the dark border gray 700, which is what we've been using for the other hairline borders as well. And make this one 3 high. See if that gives us the bottom borders. Yeah, this all looks pretty great. I think it's actually too high, too tall. I'm going to bring it back to 2. I like it a bit more snugly against each other. And then accessibility, display, and languages, and additional resources. Let's quickly grab those 2 as well. Add them to the thing here. Over these ones. And additional resources. So this is going to be the one here, resources. And all these resources, routes don't really matter. I don't implement them at this moment, but it's nice to have something that looks similar. So here we go. Okay, last thing to do is the little arrow. I think what we can do here is, so actually I think I'm going to give this a class of flex. In any case, I'm going to give it a border and a border pink of 500, 400 if you will. And inside this flex, I'm going to say justify items between, justify between the Tailwind stuff. This is going to have a span. Here you go, and this is going to be another span. And in here, I'm going to say the larger than sign. And this is going to be text large, I think, and a text gray of 400 should be a lighter than the white tint we have. It should be smaller than or greater than. It's lesser than and greater than. Greater than. So that's the other one. Yep, and it doesn't look perfect, but at some point I'm going to add SVG icons, but that's not going to be today. And I also want to do item center here in any case and get rid of this border. And then we should have something that looks pretty much similar. Yeah. So next thing up is the sidebar here, where we have 4 of these list items that are pretty similar, but they do have an icon here and a description. So I'm going to call these the account options. I can copy this one. That's nice. That's a nice gift. So let's quickly dump these in here. And then description is this string. And these ones are just pairs of having a label, which is basically a header is this, description is this. Then they have an icon, but we don't have different icons yet for each of those. So these are our options. So these are the options that appear in the page. Basically a header and a description for all of these. So how I'm going to do this, I'm going to paste this one in here, 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 there. I'm going to got some copy paste magic here, and in order for me to do this fast without having to type anything, I'd rather copy paste a bunch of things and be done with it. So this should give us some valid objects that we can push over here, pull in. Ha, no typing errors at this point. But that means we can basically get rid of all this commented out stuff, dead code, what we need in our project. So the account options list here, we have your account. We have a flex row here. I don't think we even need to have a flex row justify between anything. We can just have a plain old div. And I'm going to copy over the items here because these are similar. Copy over these items here and call these ones options for each option of options. Now they also have a path basically. So we can say options.label, options.description, and options.path. We just need to add the path here. And what I'm going to do here is copy over this one and make that your path. That's your path right here. What am I doing? It's getting late. See, just add a path right here and put it into not existent. doesn't really matter at this point because we're not going to route to it anyway yet. So that's that. Should have an option, we should have a label, and inside this one, we're going to basically put this one in the div, this one in the div, and this one in the other div. We're going to pull over the flags definition here. And inside, down below here, we're going to have an options.description. Option.description is going to have a class where we say text gray 400. This is also what we're going to do on the options description down above here. So here we will have another div, and this says basically the description of the settings page. Class of text gray 500 and text small. And we're going to probably have some margin on the bottom here. So MB6. Let's see what this gives us right here. Okay, this is getting pretty close if you ask me. Label doesn't display. We need some more space inside this upper area. So let's start with that one. PX4, PY2, just make that the same one as the other. Option label, yeah, we don't have a label here. We have a header. You know what? I'm actually going to go back and call the header property here label because it makes more sense to me. Keep that similar. There's no reason to change that to header. There you go. Okay, nice. I see we don't need the padding top that we did here, the padding bottom. Sorry, don't need that one. And what we want to do here is do the border bottom. Use that one in our description as well. So our description above here has a border bottom. And this should look pretty much the same. Let's add back the icon. And let's make sure that this greater than sign works out. Actually, what we want to do here is make this a div, label a div, and move the description up right here. And I think actually we want to do the icon down here as well. So let me copy over an icon. I had some icons somewhere in messages. Future gets some dummy icons. So again, these are icons. They will all be real icons at one point. Currently they are not. And give here a margin right of 4.3. So there we are. Okay, these things now need to align. Same line here for them to align. Okay, now the middle one needs to flex grow. Flex grow it here, and that should pull them to the side. And now the only thing they need is more space. So the icons need more space on the x-axis. So I'm going to just say margin x6 maybe. And see what that gives us. It's not what we want. We want to have more on the right, less on the left. So let's get back to margin right 3. Make that margin right 6 and margin left 3. That should bring them probably very much to the middle. Yeah, there we go. Okay, awesome. I think the font needs to be smaller on these headers. On these descriptions, I mean, I'm sorry. So this is going to be text small. And then it should be pretty much the same. They can have some more room so we can. And extra small. I'm not sure if I want extra small text. I don't think I want extra small text, but they can have some more vertical space. So here Y, I'm going to set it to 3. So these items are a bit more spaced out. They seem a bit more important. There we are. So let's change you account to your account. And yeah, I think that's it for this session. So we fixed the responsiveness issues. We added the messages page to our application, and we added the settings. Now in the offline hours, while I'm offline, I'm going to tweak and fix this a little bit to make sure that it's all working a bit better. And then next show on, I think it's going to be adding some icons. So look at an icon library, add some more routes here to see what that is. And then maybe we can start looking at connecting up the backend. So this is already a logged in session. The application that I'm using here already stores a cookie. So one of these is the cookie that we use currently to authenticate. We're already connected to the backend. So that should be fairly simple to add a dynamic list of posts and make this what's happening work. So we can tweet out stuff and we can add replies to stuff. So yeah, enough things to look at. But I think for now, this is it. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next time.